Are you ready to explore the world of AI ops and learn how AI is revolutionizing IT incident management and beyond? Well, you came to the right place, because today I've got a visionary in this field who's going to be joining me. He's the CEO and founder of BigPanda. His name's Assaf, and his insights are going to be invaluable today. But what exactly is BigPanda? How is it using AI to reshape the landscape of IT operations? Well, buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Tel Aviv, where we're going to find out more. So, a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
So, my name is Assaf Resnick. I am CEO and founder of BigPanda. Our mission as a company is to empower the teams that keep the digital world running. So, our customers are the IT teams that keep critical digital services running, things like airline reservation systems, banking software, medical device networks. Think of the average airline. They've got 50 to 100 digital applications that always have to work. Things like reservation systems, air traffic controls, and if any one of those 100 systems is down for more than 10 minutes, the entire airline is grounded. And those are our customers. Doing that job has become a lot harder in the last few years as enterprises and large companies have moved more of their IT footprint to the cloud. The amount of data, the amount of moving parts has just exploded up exponentially, way beyond the ability of these IT operations teams to keep up with this crazy tsunami of data. And so what we do is we use AI and machine learning to take all that tsunami of data and automate how you turn that into actionable insights and automation. So we can help IT teams keep those digital services, the power of the economy, keep those running.
Fantastic. Well, there's so much I'm looking forward to talking with you about today. And of course, Gen AI was all anyone was talking about last year. AI in general is exploding this year. As we record this episode in CES, I think it seems to be AI everywhere. But can you walk me through the journey of BigPanda, particularly focusing on how the platform has evolved with these advancements in AI and how that integration of generative AI specifically enhanced your incident management solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the term for what we do is called AI Ops, which is basically using AI to automate and scale IT operations. We've been doing that for 10 years, long before Gen AI came onto the scene. And it was a combination of algorithms, machine learning, and AI, and basically taking in lots and lots of data from lots of different clouds, lots of different tools that are used to manage IT infrastructure, things like servers, networks, storage, mainframes, clouds. All of those things throw off a ton of data. And we use AI to unify all that data and then convert it into actual insight that a human being can work. I'd say Gen AI specifically has really exploded onto the scene in the last year or so. And it's not the only kind of AI that can be used, that should be used. There's a lot of things that Gen AI can do, and there's a lot of things that you can't do, and other types of AI are more appropriate. But one of the big sea changes that Gen AI has brought is it's democratized how you develop on top of AI. Give you an example. Up until, I'd say, the arrival of Gen AI, our ability to leverage AI, turn that into products, was really bottlenecked by our ability to hire PhDs in data science, mathematics, AI. Not a lot of those types of people, and they're very, very expensive. And typically, they are really good at what they do, but they're really far away from our customers and the day-to-day problems that our customers face. And so along comes Gen AI, and it says, hey, you don't have to be a data scientist to be able to develop AI solutions. You have to be technical enough to leverage LLMs, large language models, but you don't have to be a data scientist. And so what does that mean for us? It means our customers are very technical. They're DevOps engineers. They're site reliability engineers. They're IT ops engineers. It means that our customers or folks that are on our team that used to be in those fields that have a very deep understanding of our customers and have a very deep empathy of the pain that their customers go through and the solutions that they need can now develop on top of Gen AI and large language models to bring solutions to the market. So what does that mean? It means two things. It means the pace at which we can develop AI solutions has dramatically increased, 10x. And it means that you can bring people who have deep domain expertise to develop solutions that are really, really appropriate and really, really, really touch at the core of the pain that our customers feel. And so Gen AI has really let us democratize that and bring to bear just a lot more velocity and a lot more horsepower in terms of the products that we're bringing to market.
And I'm curious, in your experience, and indeed all the conversations you're having with businesses all around the world, what would you say are the most pressing challenges that IT operations teams are facing in rapidly scaling companies? Are there any trends there? And how are you at BigPanda addressing some of those challenges? And ultimately, what makes you guys stand out from other AI ops platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. So the problems that IT ops teams are facing is that their enterprises, our customers are very large enterprises, so large global banks, airlines, manufacturing, retailers, things like that. All of those companies are rapidly adopting cloud. And so think of, I'm a 50-year-old Fortune 500 or Global 2000 company, right? I've got mainframes from 30 years ago. Those aren't going away. I've got data centers from 20 years ago. Those aren't going away. But as I'm doing new things, I'm using modern cloud native environments. So I'm using multiple clouds. I'm using things like containers and microservices and all of the latest and greatest technologies, which for the most part are a great thing because it lets companies really unlock innovation and velocity. That's great. But for folks in IT ops who actually have to keep the lights on, it's not great. It's a huge challenge because they still have to maintain really high level of service that consumers expect. But now they have to do it with 10x or 100x more moving parts and more data and more velocity and more fragmentation. And the business isn't giving them any more money, isn't giving them any more budget and more headcount to go tackle that problem. And so they've got to say, like, wait, given the same amount of people and the same amount of money, how do I maintain a really high level of consumer experience with 100x more data? And that's really, really hard. That's the challenge that our customers are facing. And that's where AI can come in. What we do really, really well, which is quite different from our competitors, is a number of things. We have a really open and agnostic approach to how we do things. And so we come to customers and we say, hey, you're a large company, you've got 157 different tools across your global footprint. 257 different tools you're using to manage different clouds and applications and storage environments and networks. And it's the Tower of Babel because none of those tools speak to each other. And so we have to be really, really, really good at taking in all of those different tools from all of those different environments and getting them to speak the same language. So what's called normalize and enrich all of those. So you turn that Tower of Babel into one nice, neat data set. And once you do that, then you can, and you turn all that distributed data into organized data, then you can use AI to really unlock a lot of things. And a lot of our competitors, especially the large publicly traded ones, they're not really good at that. It's not their focus. Their focus is, hey, I'm selling you lots of different tools, and I've got AI that connect the dots between all those different tools, but they have to be the tools that I sell you. Otherwise, I can't connect. Now, in the real world, I'm a large bank. I've got 50 years worth of tools. I need all of those to be unified. That's a really, really big differentiator. Another big differentiator that we bring is there's black box AI and there's what we call open box AI. So one of the big points of skepticism of people to adopt AI is that, hey, it's a black box. We come to customers and we say, hey, we want you to use us to automate some of your most mission critical operations. We want you to automate how you keep your business running. It's really scary. And a lot of our customers say, well, that's kind of scary for me because I'm feeding you all this data. Your AI is making all these decisions and it's automating based on those decisions. But I don't know what decisions it's making and why it's making the decisions. It's black box. So what we've done is we've really invested in what we call explainable AI. How do you turn that black box AI into open box AI, which says, hey, make it really transparent, really understandable that anyone can understand why is the AI making the decisions that it's making, and not just for data scientists that know how to read the matrix, this little green ones and zeros that are coming down the screen, but be able to verbalize the logic of the AI in plain spoken English. The people who run these large enterprises can say, I understand why BigPanda is making those decisions, and therefore I trust it.
It feels like you've got a unique vantage point here. So from where you are, how do you see AI technologies, particularly in the realm of operations management, influencing the scalability of early and growth stage tech companies? What are you seeing here?
Cloud has really been a revolution, an unspoken hero of startup innovation. What do I mean by that? 15 years ago, before the cloud really came on the scene, you were young entrepreneurs who wanted to bring a new idea to market. You'd need to raise $5 to $10 million just to be able to prove out does my idea make sense or not. Why? Because you have to build a data center, to buy a bunch of servers, connect them together, write code that ran on those servers, on-premise software, on-premise services, and that cost a lot of money. But then when the cloud came along, suddenly the startup costs went way, way, way down because you could go to AWS, you could use SaaS software, and with a few $100,000, you could bring your idea to market, throw that spaghetti at the wall, and see if it sticks. Right. But I noticed that as a lot of these, and that was a real revolution in venture investing because it meant like the startup costs and the time it takes to bring a company to market went way, way down. But I also noticed that as these young companies, the successful ones, turned into large enterprises, that cloud environment, which when you're small is so cheap and nimble and agile, when you're large, suddenly becomes unruly and fragmented and chaotic. It's really hard to build a business that way. And so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Along comes AI. It says, well, AI is really good at taking large sets of fast and fuzzy moving data and turning that into insight. And so you're really taking away a lot of those roadblocks to fast growth and leveraging the latest technologies to innovate and drive velocity.
I love that. And obviously you've had a hugely successful career, and I'm curious if you were to look back and reflect on that career and the positions that you've had in some huge companies, what key insights did you gain about the tech industry when you were earning your stripes out in the field? And did any of those insights influence your approach at BigPanda? I'm curious.
Before we started BigPanda, I was an investor at a venture capital company called Sequoia Capital.
Yeah.
And I'd say the biggest insight I got there, which has stayed with me, I really got from having worked with just these incredibly talented entrepreneurs who I was fortunate enough to work with. And the insight I got from them is really what drove me to start BigPanda and what kind of still keeps me going day in, day out. And that insight is I was fortunate enough to work with entrepreneurs who built amazing companies and turned ideas and basically willed ideas into reality. And 5 years into working with these folks, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think these young entrepreneurs are any smarter or more insightful than I am. Just think they're a hell of a lot hungrier and more driven and with more conviction than I have. And that's kind of slowly turned into that light bulb moment, which is if you really want to do something amazing, you got to have courage. You got to have hunger. You got to have conviction, especially when things get hard, especially when you hit a walls and you fail. Can't give up. You got to keep going. You got to have courage. You got to have hunger. And I think that's the biggest attribute among successful entrepreneurs is you had the hunger, the conviction, the determination to keep going when all the odds are against you. That's one of the biggest learnings I've taken from my previous careers.
100% with you on that. And having spoken with 2,600 people on here, if I was to ask that question, I would say exactly that. And alongside that, things like serendipity and listening to the universe, it puts those opportunities in your direction. But as you said, it's about willing those ideas into reality. And as we come full circle, though, and back to present day, can you maybe share a couple of success stories or case studies that will just bring everything to life we're talking about here and about where BigPanda has significantly impacted a client's operational efficiency, perhaps focusing on some of your many high-profile clients? I mean, there's everyone from IHG to Autodesk, and I appreciate you probably can't share any specific examples, but is there anything you can?
Yeah, I can share some high-level business ROI, and then I can share some real stories that kind of touch the humanity. So, without naming names, take a large airline. That was having the nightmare of any large airlines is when fleets get grounded and passengers get stranded in the airports, and you have angry passengers and your CFO is on CNN apologizing, and you have bridge calls from hell with hundreds of people across the company, and we're able to reduce those what they call P1 outages by 50%. That's huge because it means less angry customers, less disruption to your people. That's really huge. Take a large global semiconductor manufacturer, able to reduce the amount of manual labor required to keep the business running by 20%. That's a lot of either cost savings or 20% more manual hours you can drive towards innovation versus keeping the lights on. But some of my favorite examples, one is we work with a medical devices company, healthcare company, that's also involved with organ transplants. And there's a lot of digital systems. When there's an organ transplant on, ready to go, people aren't picking up the phone these days. There's a lot of digital software that matches donors with people in need. And then the shelf life of an organ has to be rushed to wherever that need is. And if that supply chain, which has multiple digital services that have to work for that supply chain to work, is down, well, people die. And if we can help make that better, like it's great for me to help make sure that stranded airline passengers don't get stranded. It's great for me to make sure that when people go to their ATMs to withdraw money, they can do that. But for me, it really touches that. Like we can get organs to patients in need and we can help really save lives. Well, that's really meaningful. That's more than dollars and cents.
If I was to ask you to look towards the future, how do you envision the role of AI Ops evolving this year at the beginning of 2024 and beyond? And are there any emerging technologies or trends that you believe will significantly help shape that field? I know it's early in the year, but is there anything that you see that excites you there?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that Gen AI and large language models still has a lot of room to play out. Think of the early days of cloud adoption, where we knew it was going to be big, but it was still a lot of hype and not a lot of reality. And people were still experimenting, but companies hadn't moved their mission critical assets into the cloud. I think that's where we are with Gen AI. I think we're just getting started. I can tell you for us, we were the first company in our field to come out with capabilities that were driven by large language models. So just months ago, we released automated incident analysis. How do you use Gen AI to take all of this information that's coming out of your cloud and data centers and turn that into information about the health of your critical applications, and when things are broken, what is the root cause of those breakages? That's been hugely well received by our customers. But if you look to what are our big sources of innovation coming out over the next 18 months, still a lot of runway driven by Gen AI and large language models. I think that there's going to be years worth of disruption and innovation ahead of us. And we've raised $330 million in capital. A very large amount of that is going towards how do you take Gen AI and really use that to drive innovation forward.
And just to give anybody listening, especially business leaders, any big takeaways from our conversation today, what would you say some of the most common hurdles or even misconceptions that companies are facing when adopting AI solutions for IT operations, and how at BigPanda you're helping overcome some of these challenges? Because I think there's so many people sat on the sidelines, they know what they need to do, but feel a little bit overwhelmed and find it daunting what they need to do.
I'd say a number of things. One is I think there's natural skepticism around adopting AI because it feels like magical pixie dust and a lot of promises. And there are vendors out there where the marketing doesn't match the hype. But that skepticism is coming down because these days consumers can feel AI. AI is driving people's cars, helping them make shopping recommendations. And so they're saying, hey, if AI can drive my car, maybe I can actually trust it to drive some of my mission critical business processes, including in our case, IT operations. And so you've seen a real embrace of AI in the last, I'd say, 6 months. The other part is it's not magic, and it's not going to magically change your entire life. And in our case of IT operations, suddenly mean that your entire workforce is gone and everything's going to be self-driving. There's still a very important role for humans, and in our case, in IT operations. But you can use AI to automate a lot of the recurring tasks, or especially in the case of to augment areas where human beings aren't as good. Human beings have a lot of creativity. They can use pattern recognition and familiar bits, but human beings are not great at taking petabytes of data and finding and connecting the dots. That is where you can use AI to augment your teams and bring the best out of both. Use AI for what it's good for, and use IT teams for what they can do that AI can never do. That's where you have a strong match.
Love it. And finally, based on your extensive experience, is there any advice that you would give to entrepreneurs who are maybe listening and venturing into the tech world, particularly in areas heavily reliant on AI or machine learning? Any advice you'd give to that person listening?
Yeah. Don't fall in love with technology. Focus on finding real world problems that your customers have and solve those problems. And if you can solve those problems with AI, great. But if you can solve those problems in other ways that may be simpler, faster, that's okay. The customers at the end of the day don't really care how you solve their problems. They care that you solve their problems. And so don't create solutions that are looking for problems. Focus on finding problems, then finding the solution.
Fantastic advice. And I wish everyone at CES would listen to that advice too, but that's a topic for another episode. But Obviously, we started talking about your journey at Big Panda, and as we come full circle here, I'm going to ask you to look back and reflect on your career. You must have picked up a few funny or interesting stories along the way. Is there one that you can share with us and leave everybody with?
Not a funny story, but a lesson learned for me. I remember when we spent the first 2 years building out the core platform. It's a heavy piece of technology, our platform. And it took us a good 2 years to bring it out. And I remember that we were just about to launch the offering, and a large publicly traded company offered to buy us. And I would have made a life-changing amount of money. And we had just had our second kid, and my wife said, "Hey, sell this company, come help me raise these kids." And I said no, because I had a lot of conviction to keep going, that there's a big market. We released the offering, and for the next 2 years, it was crickets. The market was not ready for what in retrospect, I know that we were at the right place at the wrong time. The tipping point of how large enterprises adopted cloud hadn't happened yet. It was 2 years in the making, and it was 2 years. I didn't know that we were early in the market. I just knew we weren't succeeding, and I felt like I was losing and a loser. But we kept going until finally the market tipping point happened, and then it started taking off. But going back to what we said earlier, having the conviction in what you're doing, and especially when times get really tough and you start doubting yourself, that's what sets people apart, successful entrepreneurs.
I think that's a powerful moment to end on. But before I do, I've got to ask, have you ever been brave enough since to say to your wife, "I told you so"? Have you dared go down that route?
No, I'm not. I'm not that brave or unwise.
And for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Big Panda, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, well, you can go to our website, BigPanda, or find us on LinkedIn or Twitter. That's where we are.
Well, I've loved hearing more about what you do there with this AI Ops platform, how it uses the latest advancements in AI, including generative AI, ultimately to drive companies' incident management strategies. And this includes things like detecting, investigating, resolving IT incidents faster and more easily. But more than anything, I think it was your story that brought it all to life. And just a big thank you for taking the time to share it with me today.
My pleasure, Neil. Thanks for having me.
And as we wrap up today's conversation with Assaf, I think it's clear that the future of IT operations is intertwined with the advancements in AI, from democratizing AI development with ChatGPT to tackling the complexities of cloud adoption. But what does this mean for the future of IT operations and the role of AI in this digital world? Well, please share your thoughts. Join this conversation by simply emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. But until next time, please keep questioning, keep learning. I also invite you to join me again tomorrow, where we'll do it all again. So thanks for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.